right, folks, thank you for coming to my presentation, and I hope that if you enjoyed this presentation, you might consider putting forward funding for this project. We're looking at a revival of Space Patrol, which is an old-time radio program that was originally heard on the ABC radio network, and rather than bringing this back as something that you would see as just a straight reboot, or as a cheesy television program with lots of schmaltz and being a parody of the original, we can instead do this as an actual play program. Now you might be curious as to what an actual play program is. Well, it is a style akin to a radio drama. A good example of that would be the No Latency podcast, which uses the role-playing system known as Cyberpunk Red. It is a recording of a live game session of a role-playing system. It's usually a tabletop role-playing game, and normally it's based on Dungeons & Dragons or Cyberpunk Red. Again, No Latency, a very good example of that. So how would this apply to Space Patrol? Well, in this particular case, we'd end up using the Cepheus Lite rule system put out by Stella Gamma Publishing. And it literally has a Space Patrol setting book. So they have variant rules that already exist for doing something with Space Patrol. We could do this. And the adventures could literally continue. You could have Buzz, Corey, and Happy back among the stars and procedurally generate new adventures and have Buzz Corey's campaigns to clean up the space lanes. You could do this. If anything, you could base it in part on Gribbet's Detective Agency, which was something created by the folks at the Dragon Friends, which is an Australian production. They've gone there, they've done that, and they've shown it can be made to work. You just need some planning. You don't always need the same game master to do it, but you can make this work. Now, staffing would be a little problematic. You would need 5 players to make this work. You need your daring, dashing lead. You need the sidekick. And of course, we had that with Buzz. We had that with Happy. But then you had the others who were the supporting characters. So you need about 3 people to be the supporting characters. You need the game master, your narrator. But you also do need a producer, and you do need an online editor. You need someone to take the recordings of the game sessions and turn them into something that's suitable for release, and you need a producer to help with the continuity and help keep things under control. Eventually, it's going to be a little much for a single producer to do that, so a lore master for continuity control is definitely going to be needed. Now, these sorts of things cost money. Currently, I've got this budgeted non-union because making anything in the current fiscal environment is very expensive. And if we went with Screen Actors Guild, American Federation of Television and Radio Actors rates, it would drive up costs where we couldn't feasibly do this for an initial season. Ballpark at non-union rates right now is $380,000 to produce a single season. We would require a Kickstarter to do this, and even then, we would still have to be doing advertisements, Patreon memberships, and more to have sustaining revenue to even think about having a second season. With the current drastic regulatory uncertainties that we have with the changeover in presidential administrations, a lot of the paths on the finance side are unclear. So right now, we're not assuming that we're going to have any particular advertiser available, and we're not certain of really anything. So we're budgeting as conservatively as we can and making numbers as high as we can, hoping and praying that if we shoot for the moon, we can get money we need and hopefully have a surplus in case things turn out better than expected. But even if we get a surplus, it might only be $5. Content distribution, we expect to distribute content using Castopod, which is a self-hosted podcast distribution platform. You can find details about that at castapod.org. This would allow us ultimate control. Again, with that regulatory uncertainty that we're really getting disturbed by. We don't want to hitch our horses to something like Acast or Spotify at the moment, and we would much better be off if we self-hosted and put things on a server under our control where we had physical access to it and we managed the horizontal and the vertical ourselves. We would maintain our own server, we would maintain our own reverse proxy, and we would maintain our own control. Of course, we would have a backup server in another country and have to have a load balancer to ensure that if and when things got a little hairy here in the US, we could then just switch to through the load balancer to the server elsewhere, but that's for down the road. Our budget at a glance, as you can see, there's a lot of red there. We need to get some black in there to have some wonderful revenue, all in due time. Concerns right now, marketing. We have a very atomized public where trying to reach a mass market is going to be insanely difficult. We don't know if we could. As we've seen with the presidential campaign that just ended, reaching a mass market may be impossible in the United States in this day and age. So we're considering whether or not that's even possible to do. Defining our audience is going to be difficult. As we've seen with the atomization of audiences by Google and Facebook, what is an audience today? Even the television networks are having trouble getting audiences above 1 million people and marketing to them. And we also want to move towards SAG-AFTRA signatory status. We want to be good citizens in the business world, and we want to be part of employing union workers. We just don't have the money to do it yet. All in due time. Right now, if we were on a union budget, take that $380,000 and double it. That'd be how much the cost would be. Our initial story would be the origins of Buzz Corey. He would start out as a young United States Space Force lieutenant with the United Nations just starting space patrol. So this would be an origin story for episode 1. Buzz would wind up being transferred by the United States to the UN after some harrowing adventures on the moon, and it would be the sign of a career just beginning as our wonderful crew of roleplay gamers would then be gaming out his adventures. So that would be the trajectory we would definitely be looking at. Any questions?